I never imagined that my simple act of kindness would bring a millionaire to tears. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The skies were the color of bruises, heavy with rain that threatened to pour at any moment. I was there, standing outside the coffee shop, the warmth spilling from its windows, but all I felt was an unbearable chill. The streets were slick with shadows, my stomach was a knot of worry, and my heart pounded in my chest that I watched him from a distance. The man in the sleek black suit. He was an enigma, an island of solitude in the crowd. People rushed past, busy with their lives, their laughter mingling with the patter of raindrops, but he was alone. His eyes, dark and stormy, stared blankly at his phone, fingers trembling, and I could almost hear the silence that wrapped around him. It radiated a heaviness, a desperate, palpable pain that pulled at my heart that I didn't know him. But something about his presence tugged at an ache I thought I knew. I've always had a soft spot for the broken-hearted. Maybe that's why I decided to act. In that moment, I stepped outside, my umbrella held high, and approached him. "Hey," I said, my voice a soft ember against the cold. "You look like you could use a little warmth." The way his eyes flicked to mine caught me off guard. For a brief second, surprise was the only thing that broke the despair. He blinked, and then shook his head. "I'm fine," he said, but the crack in his voice spoke louder than his words that I handed him a small pastry I'd just purchased. Just a simple chocolate croissant, warm and flaky. His gaze drifted down to it, then back to my eyes. There was something in that moment, a connection between two unseen worlds, one of desperate loneliness and the other a whispered hope. "Why would you do that?" he asked, vulnerability cracking through the edges of his composed facade. "Because," I said, "sometimes, kindness finds us when we least expect it." And then, it happened. The floodgate opened as tears rolled down his cheek. I could see his hands tremble, and my heart squeezed tight. A millionaire, with a world of money at his fingertips, reduced to tears over a pastry. I was caught in disbelief. What hidden pain lay behind that polished exterior? The world around us quieted. Whispers spread like wildfire among the crowd. I felt all eyes on us. The heat of embarrassment flushed my cheeks. The strange juxtaposition danced in the air. Strangers looked on, curiosity mixing with sympathy. I could feel their thoughts buzzing, but in that moment, all I could focus on was him. "Life is not what it seems," he finally whispered, his voice cracked and raw. "No one can understand." And just like that, we were left hanging. The mystery deepened. What had happened to him? What was hidden beneath the surface? I wanted to know. I needed to know how a tiny act of kindness could unravel such a heavy tapestry of sorrow. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The rain began to fall, a soft patter that quickly escalated to a relentless downpour, but for us, it washed away the chaos of the world. A moment suspended in time, my heart raced not only from the storm around us but from the storm stirring within him. I stood there, umbrella hovering over us like a fragile shield, acutely aware of the strangers watching this collision of lives. "Please," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "don't." I shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what he meant. My instinct told me to turn away, to give him the space he so desperately seemed to need. But something inside me, a pang of courage, maybe a touch of recklessness, urged me forward. "You don't have to talk," I replied, trying to sound reassuring. "But whatever you're feeling, it's real, and you don't have to bear it alone." He searched my gaze, as if looking for something, an anchor in a storm-tossed sea. "You think it's that simple?" The world doesn't work that way. People don't care, he said, anger creeping into his voice. It's all about power and money, and I've seen the worst of it. I wanted to push back, to tell him that wasn't entirely true, but how could I, when I felt the sting of his words? A part of me wished to show him the warmth of kindness that existed, still flickering in the shadows. I care. I promise. Maybe we're just lost in a world of chaos. But it doesn't mean some of us don't try. My voice trailed off, the unease of exposing my own vulnerabilities tangible in the air between us. He looked away momentarily, lost in thought. The rain streamed around us like silver ribbons, and I studied him, the well-groomed facade slipping, revealing a man undoubtedly crushed beneath unseen burdens. Look at me, he snapped. I'm supposed to be untouchable. A millionaire with everything at my fingertips. But what's the point when all it leads to is loneliness? His admission hit me like a crude awakening, a reminder of the fragility that lay beneath wealth and success. I took a small step closer, feeling the warmth radiate from our shared moment, though it felt precarious under the weight of his pain. I see you, I said quietly, trusting that my sincerity would bridge the gap. And you aren't alone. As he met my eyes again, there was a flicker of vulnerability there, a space where fear and hope collided. The tempest inside him seemed to quiet, if only for a moment. Then, a voice interrupted us, sharp and cutting through the intimacy of our exchange. What are you doing, Theo? I turned to see a woman approaching, sharply dressed and radiating an intimidating presence. Her expression was a blend of concern and disdain. You can't just stand around wasting time with street performers. Your life and image depend on more than this nonsense. The weight of her words hung heavy between us. I'm not wasting my time, Theo replied, his voice firm, but I could see the cracks, the struggle dueling within him. I was just talking. Talking? You're in the spotlight, remember? She shot back, glancing at me with disdain. This isn't how a millionaire acts. That single comment ignited something in me. I felt anger rise within, the audacity of her words was stifling. Maybe he doesn't want to act anymore, I said, my voice trembling with fervor. Maybe he just needs enough, she interrupted, her tone devoid of compassion. I felt my heart falter as the moment we'd just begun to cultivate slipped through our fingers. Let us go, Theo. It's time to leave the common people behind. For a moment, I saw a panic flash in his eyes, a battle of expectations and desires raging behind them. Was he truly entrapped in a gilded cage, unable to escape the very essence that defined him? Wait, I said, desperation clawing at my throat. What happened to you, Theo? You can't fight against everything alone. Please, just talk to me. But he turned from me, battered by two worlds pulling him apart, leaving me with nothing but the echo of his sorrow. I can't, he whispered before walking away, the woman's silhouette overshadowing him, dragging him deeper into a world I couldn't reach. The warmth of my gesture had dimmed, leaving behind a chill of uncertainty. As the rain intensified around me, an unsettling thought echoed in my mind: had I been wrong to reach out? Was there more beneath his surface than I could comprehend? And then, just as I turned to leave, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from an unknown number. I know about you and Theo. You should be careful. The truth is darker than you think. A fresh wave of anxiety surged through me, a sense of impending doom settling over what had begun as a fleeting moment of kindness. What truth loomed just outside the reach of my understanding? And would I be brave enough to confront it? The rain continued to pour, a relentless downpour that mirrored the turmoil within me. My heart raced as I stood at that crossroad, uncertainty gnawing at my insides. I stared at my phone, the ominous message pulsing like a beacon of dread in my palm. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Was I really in over my head, venturing too close to a world I might never truly understand? I moved away from the bustling square, the vibrant life around me now a blur, sound muted under the thrumming of the rain. My usual path through the market now felt foreign, every stall, every vendor seemed to watch me with pity in their eyes. I felt like an outsider, an intruder in a narrative far darker than I had anticipated. With each step, my mind replayed the moment with Theo. The anger that had surged through me in defense of him now mingled with disappointment. The image of his regret-laden eyes tormented me. He was a prisoner, struggling against an invisible force that shackled him to expectations that had nothing to do with his true self. As I rounded a corner, I noticed an old woman huddled under a tattered awning, her hands clasped tightly around a small cup, hoping for coins. For a split second, I hesitated. I had little enough to spare, and doubt spiraled through me. Was I supposed to extend kindness when I had my own uncertainties to grapple with? But then I remembered Theo and the despair that clawed at him. With renewed resolve, I approached her. "I'm sorry," I said, pulling a few crumpled bills from my pocket. "It's not a lot, but I hope it helps." Her eyes, weary and yet alive with a flickering spark, met mine. "Thank you, dear. Kindness is precious, especially on days like this." Her smile, though sad, warmed the chill of doubt within me. As I turned to walk away, she called out, her voice raising my head. "Remember, sometimes hope hides in the unlikeliest places." I smiled back, her words striking a chord deep within me. Hope. Perhaps that was what I needed to cling to, especially regarding Theo. Still, as I made my way home, the unease from the message loomed. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself it was a prank or some misguided warning from an overzealous admirer. Yet 1,000 scenarios whirled through my mind. What if I had stumbled onto something that involved him in ways I couldn't fathom? Risky engagements, hidden truths, and even darker secrets could churn beneath the surface of his life, swirling in a tide I had unknowingly entered. That I arrived home, drenched and exhausted, the weight of the day manifesting in my bones as I slumped on the couch, the glow of my phone remaining constant in front of me. Could I have pushed harder for Theo? Did I make a mistake in trying to reach him? Suddenly, a knock at my door made me jump. My heart raced. Who could it be? I peered through the peephole and my breath hitched in my throat. Standing there, drenched and disheveled, stood Theo. The rain clung to his clothes, and his expression was a mix of defiance and desperation. I opened the door cautiously, confusion flooding my thoughts. "Theo? What are you doing here? Can we talk?" he asked, his voice strained. "I need to explain." As I stepped aside, allowing him into my sanctuary, a rush of conflicting emotions surged within me. I wondered what revelations he carried, how they might shape the fragile connection we began to form. But the moment he crossed the threshold, the tension crackled in the air between us. The storm amid the clouds swirled, and with it, my heartbeat began to echo a rhythm of hope etched with fear. Before I could catch my breath, he locked eyes with mine. "Everything that woman said, it's all true. I have a reputation to uphold, but it's not the real me." His voice quivered, a mixture of vulnerability and something darker swirling just beneath the surface. As he spoke, an urge to protect him stirred within me, but doubt clung to my every thought. The weight of his world pressing against me made every syllable heavier than the last. "But what is the real you, Theo? What are you afraid of?" He flinched at my question. The silence between us stretching painfully. The answer lingered like a specter in the shadows of his heart. Would he dare reveal it? And more importantly, would I emerge from this encounter untouched? Then, just as he opened his mouth to speak, my phone buzzed again, piercing through the heavy emotion between us. It was another message from the mysterious number. "You have no idea what he's involved in. It goes far beyond loneliness. Look deeper, or you'll regret it." My heart sank. The warning rattled within me, urging me to tread lightly. As I met his gaze, a realization dawned. Whatever truths he harbored, they were entangled in shadows darker than I had imagined, and with each passing moment, we were caught between light and encroaching darkness. The air thickened with the weight of unspoken truths as Theo's eyes darted around the room, searching for words that felt like they slipped further away with each fleeting second. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a precipice, my heart pounding louder than the raindrops drumming against the window. The vibrant colors of our world, just hours ago so vivid, faded into grays, contorted by the shadows that whispered in the corners of my mind. Just give me a moment, he pleaded, closing his eyes against the torrent of emotions that threatened to overwhelm him. It was a raw, vulnerable side I had not yet seen, and my chessboard of perceptions shifted again. What were the pieces, and what game was I actually playing? I can't leave you like this, I said, anguish creeping into my voice. It was as if I had stepped into his tumultuous storm, feeling the winds of his storm tugging at my resolve. He opened his eyes, and in them I found something that mirrored my own confusion. You shouldn't have to bear this burden for me. I just tell me. We can face it together. Whatever it is, I urged, my heart racing at the thought of being cast off just as the storm was peeling away the daylight. A spasm of emotion flickered over his face, shadows dancing in the depths of his gaze. I'm not who you think I am. I've made choices, horrible ones. I've tried to push people away to protect them, and now I'm losing everything. The fragmented pieces of his life, scattered and tangled, began to take shape for me. The words took form, leaving a bitter taste on my tongue. What choices? He swallowed hard, a deep-felt sorrow echoing in his voice. I'm in debt, and not just financial. He hesitated, looking down as if the words were too heavy to bear. I wanted to scream for him to let it all spill out. The ominous text loomed in the back of my mind, weaving itself into the narrative he now spun. It's not just loneliness, Theo. Is it dangerous? My voice trembled, dread slithered like a shadow in the room. It's complicated. He stepped closer, desperation etched into his every feature. I'm caught up with some people who don't play by the rule book. There are things I've done that I'm not proud of. I thought it was just about me, and I was wrong. Now, it's not just my life at stake. I inhaled sharply, the words sending a chill slithering down my spine. This was a man teetering on the brink of something unfathomable, and yet I felt an inexplicable urge to reach out to him, to anchor him, like a lighthouse amidst crashing waves. What do you mean, Theo? Are you in danger? At that moment, a flicker of determination ignited in his gaze. I need to find a way out. I thought I could handle it alone, but I don't want to drag you into this. You deserve better. His concern split open the tender ache in my chest, mingling with the urgency to protect him. We're already in this together, I insisted. You aren't alone, and you never have to be. Just tell me what I can do. But before he could reply, another buzz from my phone interrupted the fragile moment, pulling us back into the chaos. I glanced down, my heart plummeting as I read the chilling message. If you dig deeper, be prepared to lose everything. Are you willing to risk it all for him? Tension gripped the air, coiling tighter. A sense of foreboding snaked through my veins, causing the warmth of compassion to wane. The echoes of the old woman's words surfaced. Hope hides in the unlikeliest places. But what hope could sprout when fear took root in our lives? What is going on, Theo? This isn't just about you anymore, I said, trying to keep the tremor from my voice. I can't stand here and let you spiral deeper. But if we're going to fix this, we have to do it right. A shadow of something I couldn't quite name crossed his face, and then he nodded, finally seeming to gather himself for what lay ahead. Okay. Okay, but I need you to promise me something. Be ready for anything. This isn't just another nasty breakup or a financial mess. I'm tangled with people who see everything as a game, and the stakes have never been higher. Just as I was about to respond, the ground beneath us seemed to shift, and the phone buzzed yet again. My breath caught. This time there were no words. Instead, a photo had been sent. The image was blurry, but it was enough. Theo, laughing, standing with a group of men I had seen before, their faces twisted with malice. And the realization hit me like a thunderclap. These were the people he was talking about, and the world he tried to escape was haunting him still. My world tilted precariously, the weight of the moment together bringing a sudden, terrifying clarity. They're watching you, I breathed as dread enveloped us. What have you gotten us into, Theo? His expression darkened, the the flicker of defiance ebbing away as fear took hold. That's not all. They know about you. With those words, the fragile semblance of safety I'd felt shattered. We stood at the precipice of an uncertain path, tangled together in a web of threats. I may have started this journey hoping to save him, but now the question loomed larger than ever: who would save us both? The room felt suffocating, each heartbeat echoing the weight of impending doom that pressed against my chest. I could barely grasp what Theo had just revealed. As our breaths intertwined, the bitter taste of reality settled heavily on my tongue. They know about me. I repeated, the words sticking like thorns. His gaze darted to the window, the sheets of rain outside now seeming like curtains to an impending tempest. He ran a hand through his tousled hair, a gesture I'd come to associate with significant anxiety. I thought I could shield you from this. I never wanted to involve you. But here we are. I stepped closer, gathering the remnants of my resolve like armor against the rising tide of despair. What do we do, Theo? Do we run? Running won't help, he said, voice heavy with defeat. That's the worst part. His eyes brimmed with unshed tears, reflecting confusion, remorse, and something much darker. They're relentless. You can flee or you can fight, honestly even I'm not sure which is worse. A shrill sound cut through the thick, stifling air, the phone vibrating on the table. Its persistent buzzing felt like a call to arms, urging me to confront the shadow of uncertainty casting itself across our lives. I scooped it up, half expecting another bone-chilling warning. Instead, the message was straightforward: meet at the cove. Tonight. Alone. Or else. The ultimatum sent a shiver spiraling down my spine. Abandoning the threat was not an option, not now, not ever. The impending confrontation danced like a ghost around us, daring me to acknowledge its existence. Theo, I can't go. I won't leave you. Staying here puts you in danger too. His frustration flared, but beneath it, there was an undercurrent of desperation, as if he feared not just for himself but for me, too. You don't understand the kind of people I'm wrapped up with. They won't think twice about what happens to you if they feel threatened. But how could I walk away when the very fabric of our connection was now overshadowed by fear? Theo had brushed against a truth I had yet to fully appreciate. We were no longer just entangled in his mess, we were caught together in an unpredictable storm. I faced him, forcing my voice steady despite the tremor beneath. It's too late for goodbyes, Theo. Whatever happens, we stand together. A flicker of admiration bloomed inside his pained expression. You really mean that? Even if they, I echoed, cutting him off to solidify my determination. But every promise came with its own weight, and this one felt heavier than any before. We locked eyes, searching for a determination mirrored in one another beneath the fear and uncertainty. I could see Theo's heart laid bare in the storm raging within him, a man who had clung to fictional bravado finally staring down his reality. The very setup I felt trapped inside shifted, and for a second, an unexpected surge of hope bloomed in that space between us. A determination formed amidst turmoil, but just as quickly, the heaviness of those possibilities melted away with a buzz from my phone, snapping us back into the present. This time, it wasn't a new message, it was an incoming call, my mother's name lighting the screen. An involuntary wave of guilt washed over me as I considered how abruptly my life had shifted, leaving her to wonder where I'd been. I glanced at Theo, he nodded, the tight line of his jaw softening momentarily. The chaos around us was unyielding, perhaps needing to remain chiseled in the background just a little longer. I need to take this, I whispered, backing away slightly to lessen the intensity of the moment. His expression was a mixture of support and silent fear. Be careful. I stepped outside the cluttered room, into the more familiar confines of home. With every step away from Theo, a gnawing sensation of loss lingered at the edges of my spirit. A primal instinct gripped me, a need to keep him safe while also yearning to retain the parts of myself untouched by his reality. Hey, Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, the heaviness of my heart belittling the ordinary greeting. Where have you been? Her voice, tinged with worry, wrapped around my conscience. I was just about to call the police. I'm okay. Really, I reassured her, recalling Theo's words about the danger that now lurked in our lives. I've just been busy with school projects. School projects? Her voice heightened with suspicion. You've missed dinner again. You never tell me anything. I know. I'm sorry. My voice was fragile, breaking slightly under the pressure of anxiety. I'll explain everything later. I promise. Just trust me. The silence on the other end became palpable. I don't know what is happening with you, but promise me you'll be careful. I promise. The words rolled off my tongue, hurried and empty, tinged with an urgency that clawed at me. That I hung up and turned back toward the room, dread slithering back in a suffocating embrace. Had I further endangered Theo by entering into a parallel world that was spiraling beyond my control? As I stepped back into the hall, my breath caught again a familiar face, a terrifying one, slithered into view. It was Theo's father, standing in the doorway, with a darkness cloaked around him like a shadow, his presence a stark reminder that our struggles were far from over. You both need to understand that there are consequences to your choices. His voice dripped with an icy insistence, wrapping us both in a chill that threatened to suffocate. My heart raced, as panic surged, only to be met with an unexpected burst of defiance from Theo behind me. Dad, no. You don't get to dictate our lives anymore. And in that moment, as heaviness blanketed us, a fresh layer of complexity unfurled before me, a return into the grip of a battle we had never fully entered, the cracks in all of our lives deepening again. The battlefield was set, and I realized that perhaps saving Theo meant confronting a darkness I had never anticipated. Would hope outshine the shadows threatening to consume us, or would we simply become casualties of a war we were never meant to fight? The atmosphere was electric, filled with a tension that pulsed through the air like a live wire. I could feel myself teetering on the edge of something monumental, thrust into the reality of Theo's life. His father's presence was a harbinger of all that threatened to swallow us whole, and though fear gripped at my chest, an unexpected fire ignited within me. The older man's eyes narrowed, flickering between disdain and disbelief. You think you can just walk away from this? He sneered, each word dripped in ice. You don't understand what you're meddling in. Your life is about to get very complicated. Maybe it already is complicated, I shot back, surprising even myself. But I'm not going to let you bully us anymore. Theo stood beside me, a fierce protector despite the fear etched across his face. We were two warriors standing together against a formidable adversary. His father scoffed, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed his features. You think you're brave? This is bigger than you. Bigger than both of you. And yet here we are, standing against you, Theo replied, steel lacing his voice. The surge of protectiveness that radiated from him was palpable, wrapping around me like a woven shield against the darkness ahead. But the war wasn't just external. Every glimmer of conflict now brewed within, wrestling against hope. Would we be able to stand firm when it came time to make the most difficult choice? What do you want from us? I pressed, my heart racing as I faced the man who had orchestrated so much suffering and fear. We deserve an answer. You can't just swoop in and dictate our lives. At that moment, there was an odd stillness as Theo's father hesitated, caught off guard by my resistance. Yet, his resolve quickly returned, though it felt more brittle than before. I want you out of this, both of you. You don't belong in this world, and I will not allow you to threaten what I've built. What you've built? Theo's voice tremored with a mix of anger and disbelief. You mean the manipulation, the fear? I would rather burn it all to the ground than let it dictate our lives. The tension swelled thickly, suffocating in its fervor. I could sense the storm brewing under the surface of Theo's father, his carefully crafted facade beginning to crack. You think I built that world for fun? I did it for protection. Protection for who? I found my voice again, fueled not only by defiance but also a desperate need for clarity. Did the people you've hurt ever matter in your grand plan? All I see is a man whose empire is founded on the remains of others. You've lost sight of what it means to protect. The words hung in the air, heavy with truth. I could see his facade falter further, barely contained rage swirling beneath a veneer of control. And in that moment, the dynamic transformed. The confrontation shifted out of my control, plunging into something much deeper, much darker. You think you know everything? His voice dropped lower, laced with menace. You have no idea who you're talking to. I felt a flash of fear rippling through me at his words, a warning echoing through my mind. But Theo stepped closer, drawn by conviction. No, but I know enough to recognize a coward hiding behind power. You can't intimidate us anymore. We had come together as allies, sharing a bond not just forged from love, but also from our fight for freedom. It was exhilarating and terrifying at once. I wanted to believe in a different future, but the reality of his father loomed large, an embodiment of everything we dreaded. Your naive hope will be your downfall, his father snarled, finally raising his voice, his anger emanating like a palpable force. I suggest you tread lightly. There are eyes everywhere. The sheer weight of that statement sent a chill through me, reminding me of the urgency of our circumstances. What did he mean by eyes everywhere? I could feel our safety unraveling, a thread pulled too tight about to snap. Then, without warning, Theo's father stepped back, glancing toward the rain-drenched window, peering into the darkness beyond. If you both choose to continue this dangerous game, he warned, you'll regret it. You don't know who you are truly up against. And with that, he spun on his heel, striding out of the room with a resolve that felt like much more than just a departure. As the door slammed shut, the echo lingered in the air, like a promise of more confrontation yet to come. That a heaviness clouded the space between us, the implications of his words settling around our shoulders like a shroud. I wasn't prepared for that, I whispered, the reality of our situation sinking in. Neither was I, Theo murmured, but his expression remained resolute. But we can't back down now. We have to find a way out of this. As we shared a silent moment of understanding, tangled by fear and hope, my phone buzzed again, the sound shattering the fragile bubble around us. I glanced at the screen to find a familiar name lighting up the device. My heart dropped, realizing it was a text from my mother. I know something is wrong. I'm coming to get you. The gravity of her message sent ripples of dread flooding through me, visions of her unknowingly stepping into danger alongside us. Theo, she's coming here, I gasped, my breath hitching in panic. We have to stop her. I'll do anything to protect you, he said, determination blazing in his eyes. We need to get out of here, now. But as we rushed toward the doorway, a crushing fear settled deep in my gut. What if we were already too late? Would our battles against shadows yield a safe haven, or would we face another storm brewed from the darkest corners of our lives? The ride to Theo's home was fraught with a palpable tension that mirrored the storm brewing outside. Raindrops splattered violently against the car's windshield, each one a reminder of the urgency clawing at my mind. I kept replaying my mother's message, my heart pounding at the thought of her hurtling towards a situation she could never comprehend. Are you sure she can handle it? Theo asked, his voice tentative, as he navigated through the downpour. I sensed the worry buried in his tone, echoed in the depths of his gaze, an unsettling mix of concern for me and apprehension about what lay ahead. I have to believe she can, I replied, gripping the edge of my seat. She is stronger than she seems. But I hesitated, feeling heavy with the weight of uncertainty. I don't want her to see this side of it all. Not like this. I know, he said softly, reaching for my hand. His touch grounded me, igniting warmth where shadows threatened to encircle. But we'll protect her, no matter what. As we drove on, lightning crackled overhead like an aggressive fireworks display, punctuating our somber journey with flashes of white light. Each burst illuminated the thoughts swirling in my mind: strategies, plans, worst-case scenarios. I fought the urge to spiral into fear, focusing instead on the resolute heartbeat of hope. If we could steer my mother away from the chaos, maybe we stood a better chance against Theo's father and the insidious web he'd woven. When we finally arrived, the house loomed behind the curtain of rain, stark against the darkened sky. I could see the silhouette of my mother standing on the porch, her anxious form outlined by the amber glow of the porch light. The moment she spotted us, her features morphed from tension to relief, making the ache in my chest swell painfully. "Mom!" I shouted, pushing open the car door and wading through the rain. I ran towards her, wrapping her in an embrace that felt both reassuring and desperate. "I'm so glad you're here. What is going on?" she asked, pulling back to get a good look at my face. Her brow furrowed with concern as she soaked in my disheveled hair and wide eyes. "Can we talk inside?" I urged, casting a sideways glance at Theo, who stood at the car, eyes scanning the perimeter as if it were under siege. "It's not safe out here." My heart raced as we ushered her inside, the storm punctuating our movements with a relentless symphony of chaos. We gathered in the living room, and I realized that I had to explain everything, no holding back, but just as I began to detail the brush with Theo's father, the front door burst open. My breath hitched as I turned to see a shadowy figure emerge from the drenched night, drenched and imposing. "Just what have you gotten yourself into?" Theo's father, slick with rain, stepped through the threshold, uninvited and brimming with rage. His dark eyes searched the room, landing on me with a ferocity that froze my insides. "Stay back!" Theo shouted, stepping in front of me protectively. The air crackled with mounting tension, electricity clashing against the muffled drum of falling rain. "What are you doing here?" I demanded, a mixture of anger and fear intermingling in my voice. "I came to remind you of the consequences of defiance," he sneered, his tone dripping with contempt. "And to retrieve what's already mine." "Dad, you're not taking her." Theo roared, his hands balled into fists at his sides. "You don't get to decide who is part of my life anymore." "I'm not taking her, Theo. You're the one who has lured her into this mess. And now, you would put her in danger for your own foolishness." His words slashed through me like blades, eliciting an overwhelming desire to shield both myself and Theo from the inevitable fallout. I glanced at my mother, who stood frozen, her face pale as she took in the scene unfolding before her. There was a tremor in the air as every breath felt heavier, laden with the impending conflict. Just as I thought there might be a moment of reprieve, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance, close enough that they began to overwhelm all other noise. "Your mother shouldn't be here," Theo's father stated, his attention shifting toward her. "And believe me when I say that anyone who interferes will regret it." A crack of thunder reverberated through the room, and I felt the ground beneath my feet quake with the weight of his threat. What had begun as a simple rescue mission was morphing into an unexpected nightmare, and each second stretched into eternity as the storm waged war outside, blurring the line between protection and peril. "What did you do to us?" I gasped, staring into the depths of his eyes, searching for answers amid the chaos. "We wanted nothing but freedom, and yet you've brought this upon us." "Why?" Without warning, the window shattered, a violent gust of wind entering the room, echoing the fervor of the storm. As shards of glass began to scatter, Theo lunged towards me, pulling me close. And that's when I knew his father would stop at nothing to destroy the very hope that had ignited between us. The stakes escalated beyond anything we ever imagined, and I felt an overwhelming rush of dread. But then, something snapped within me, igniting a surge of courage as wild as the storm outside. "You think you can control us? That we will cower before you?" I shouted, feeling my voice rise like embers flickering to life. "We are not afraid anymore." The moment hung in the air, electric with the collision of our wills. And with that realization, I felt a glimmer of hope, flickering defiantly against the dark, but before the wave of bravery could lift us higher, another revelation struck, a realization that someone outside had heard our tumult, had witnessed the chaos inside, drawing closer with each heartbeat. With a jolt, I turned, bracing for whatever lay on the other side of that door, the haunting thought piercing through my mind: who was waiting to witness the fallout of our struggle for freedom? The silence that followed my shout was suffocating, wrapping around us like a vice, squeezing the very air from the room. Theo's father stood frozen, a flurry of emotions warring behind his calculating gaze. I didn't know if I crossed a line or ignited the flames of his wrath, but the tension in the space thickened with every heartbeat that passed. Then, unexpected voices pierced the shadows, voices that carried a weight I hadn't anticipated. "Let her go!" A voice shouted, and the sudden burst of authority cut through the tension like a knife. A group of people surged into the room, their silhouettes stark against the night that poured through the shattered window. I recognized them immediately, the local activists who had worked alongside us to expose the corruption that had ensnared our town. Matty, with his shaggy hair and determined spirit, led the charge, flanked by Mia and several others who shared our fight for justice. Their presence felt like a lifeline thrown into raging waters. "Back off, all of you!" Theo's father spat, his annoyance flaring as he redirected his aggression towards the newcomers. "You have no idea what you're meddling with." "Actually, we do," Matty challenged, stepping forward, his voice steady. "And we're not leaving without her." The twist of hope that surged through me was almost dizzying, a stark contrast to the dread that had lingered moments before. But alongside that hope was a sharp pang of fear, the unsettling knowledge that we were still in a volatile situation, and the storm raging outside was nothing compared to the fury that brewed in the room. "Wait," I called out, wrenching my eyes from the standoff to pull focus back to them. "Please, we need a moment." "Mira, don't." Theo's voice barely reached my ears, but his fear anchored me. "They can help us," I implored him, my heart pounding. "They know how his kind work, the depths they sink to. We have to be smart about this. It's too dangerous." He insisted, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. His father was a monster, but there was strength in numbers, a collective resilience that could give us the upper hand. "I never thought this would come to a head like this," I murmured, gesturing for silence, my chest tightening with the weight of responsibility. "But my mom, she needs to understand everything we're up against. You all need to understand." Matty nodded, confidence pouring off him in waves. "If we're going down this road, let us make it count." And that S when the world shifted. My mother's voice trembled as she broke through the confusion. "What's really going on, Mira? All of this, it's so much." The truth felt like shrapnel lodged in my throat. I needed to protect her from the fallout of my choices, yet here we were, entwined in a web spun by forces well beyond our control. "It's about fear," I began, the words cascading out of me. "Fear of being controlled, fear of losing ourselves to their definitions of who we should be." The room grew still as I glanced at each pair of eyes, searching for understanding. "But we're stronger together. They can't dictate our lives if we fight back." The silence settled for a breath, a fragile pause as the walls felt like they were closing in. And then, as if the storm outside had reached its crescendo, reality crashed forward when Theo's father roared with laughter, an ugly sound that shattered the temporary calm. "You truly think this bunch of misfits can stand against me? You think your bond will shield you from the truth?" Before I could respond, another furious crack of thunder erupted, harmonizing with the grief of my heart. "They aren't just misfits, they're the embodiment of every person your greed has wronged. That's what makes us stronger." But as the words spilled from my lips, I felt the ground shift precariously once more. The sirens were closer now, the blaring wails filled my ears, a promise of a reckoning I couldn't yet fully grasp. Each second that passed felt heavy with consequence, an avalanche waiting to descend upon us. "Your time is up," Theo's father sneered, shifting into action, his body coiling like a snake ready to strike. "You've defied me for the last time. You think you have anyone to save you? I'll expose every single one of you, take back what's mine, and leave nothing but ashes in my wake." Panic surged through me, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. "Theo," I gasped, grasping his forearm, but the moment was interrupted by a wailing that stuttered to a stop outside, suddenly eerie in its absence. "Get down!" Theo shouted, pulling me away from the chaos just as the door burst open once more, this time, not with his father's wrath but with the energies of the police, sirens flashing like lifelines in the dim room. Yet as they stormed in, a single thought anchored to the forefront of my mind: had we underestimated his danger? Had we unwittingly set ourselves up for destruction with this newfound hope? The officers called for quiet, brandishing their badges, but all I could focus on was the tightening grip of foreboding as someone slipped through the crowd, a figure cloaked in shadows, eyes glinting like steel, and in that chilling moment, I felt the ground beneath us break. The realization washed over me with the certainty of an incoming wave. This was just about what lay ahead, but the lines that had been drawn, binding us further to the chaos we were desperately trying to escape. Whose side are you truly on? I whispered to the figure, dread coiling tightly around my heart, an uncertain pulse thrumming through me as the reality of what this meant loomed ever closer. The air in the room was thick with unspoken tension, the cacophony of sirens drowned out by my racing heart. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I turned toward the shadowy figure who had slipped into the room unnoticed. I could see a flicker of recognition cross the faces of the activists and my mother behind me. Unease settled like a heavy weight on my shoulders. Who are you? The question was barely more than a whisper, escaping my lips. My body tensed, ready for whatever was going to unfold next. The figure stepped closer, revealing more of their features: a woman, strikingly elegant yet exuding an air of desperation that was palpable. Her dark hair framed a face that bore the scars of a struggle that mirrored my own. I had never seen her before, yet there was something about her presence that felt oddly familiar. Mira, she spoke softly, her voice a mixture of warmth and heartbreak. I'm here to stop this. The words hung in the air, charged with unshed tears and unspoken fears. Stop what? I feared the answer more than I wanted to know. Theo's parent, still seething, sneered at her. And you think you can stop me? This is all a game to you. Her gaze flickered towards him, steady and unwavering, something brimming beneath her calm demeanor. No games. Just consequences. Then her eyes returned to me, intensifying, as if trying to see into my soul. You deserve the truth, Mira. You've all been manipulated and misled for so long. I felt my heart quicken, each word pulling me closer to the edge. What do you mean? What truth? You remember the fundraiser last year? She asked, and though the question felt innocuous, I could sense the weight behind it. The event had masqueraded as a glorious evening to fund community development, but whispers of corruption had been murmured behind its facade. The very same development that had ripped families apart. My memory sharpened, and the fragments I'd pieced together began to connect with agonizing clarity. You were there. She nodded slowly, almost sadly. I helped organize it. I wanted to believe it would invigorate our town, but her voice broke slightly. I started noticing the cracks, the lies, the manipulation. Theo's father, he was behind it all. Disbelief flooded my thoughts, threatening to drown my resolve. That's not possible. He's a master at deception, Mira. Her words were like a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea. He's been ruining lives while pretending to save them. He'll stoop to any level, and this time it includes your family. A chill ran down my spine. The anguish of betrayal wrapped around my heart like a vice. I felt Theo's arm tighten around me, his presence grounding yet unsteadying amidst this whirlwind of revelations. No. I shook my head forcefully. No. There must be something we can do, something to protect my mom. She can't be caught in this trap. The woman's expression softened, a spark of compassion breaking through. You're stronger than you know. But you also have to break the cycle. This fight can't come at the cost of your family. If you keep pushing, you might lose more than you're prepared to. The only way to truly fight is to understand your enemy. Do you want to know what he is capable of? The lengths he will go to. Terror coiled in my stomach as I glanced around the room, the faces of my friends, my mother, Theo's father looming ominously. The implications of her words sank in. What if our actions led not just to our downfall but also to collateral damage? Could we bear that on our shoulders? The police were still momentarily distracted by the confrontation, the sound of muffled voices filtering through the air. Time felt suspended as I grappled with the depth of our predicament and the weight of secrets I had yet to uncover. Who else knows? I asked suddenly, feeling the air crackle with urgency. Who else has come up against him? He has silenced most who stood in his way, she replied, her eyes glistening with an unyielding resolve. But there's always a way to expose the truth. You just need to find it. It dawned on me then that I had been waiting for someone to come and rescue us, while all along, the power of change simmered within me. But with that power came the inevitable danger. The potential for destruction was almost unbearable to fathom, yet there was also a flicker of something that sparked inside, a dawning idea that an unexpected act of kindness might lead us toward liberation. I had no guarantees of safety, but if we could unite our narratives, maybe we could turn the tide. Together, I uttered, voice hoarse yet gritty with determination. We can confront this together. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Maddie, Mia, and the others nodded, rallying behind me. Theo looked at me, confusion and admiration battling in his expression. Are you sure, Mira? Is that really what you want? As I met his gaze, the clarity of my emotions surged to the forefront. This was about more than individual lives, it was about our shared humanity and the injustices we had endured. It is, and I trust you to be by my side. But just as the word solidified in the air, the door swung wide open, and the figure of a police lieutenant stepped in. The tension escalated immediately, a looming sense that the world was closing in around us. We need to talk, he announced, his tone firm as his eyes scanned the room and landed on me with unsettling precision. Had our moment of hope swung too dangerously close to prophecy's edge? And just how deep did the rabbit hole of this truth go? My heart raced with dread, the voice inside urging me to get ready not just for battle, but for a reckoning I could never have anticipated. Standing there, caught in the storm of voices and emotions, I felt the weight of the moment press down harder than ever. The lieutenant's presence escalated the tension to an unbearable level, as if with a single command, the room could unravel into chaos. I looked around at the faces surrounding me. Theo S., my mother S., the activists, each reflecting a mix of fear and determination. Couldn't he let this slip away? Couldn't he let the tides carry us off into despair? Why are you here? I managed to ask, my voice steadier than the quaking in my heart. I felt the thrumming of adrenaline, grappling with the shadows of uncertainty still looming heavy over us. The lieutenant's gaze fell on Theo's father first, and I wondered if he had come to dismantle the tangled web of deception that had ensnared us all. Because, he said, his voice like gravel, I've had enough of the games. You all know more than you think. There was a spark of recognition that ignited within me. Perhaps this was the turning point we desperately needed. The tides were shifting, and the ground we walked upon felt more solid as we began to direct our focus collectively. We do know, I said, finding strength in the conviction I felt surging forth. We know about the corruption, the pain, and the real cost of having something that looks beautiful on the surface while rotting within. My mother's eyes widened, confusion and concern mingling in her gaze. Mira, what do you mean? I took a deep breath. It's true, Mom. What we thought was a chance for our community to thrive was the beginning of something insidious. Enough. Theo's father barked, fists clenched. But he was losing his power, the very air of dominance he had wielded now tainted with uncertainty. The police were not just here to observe, they were here to expose. The lieutenant nodded, stepping toward Theo's father with an air of authority I had only hoped would be there. You've been playing us all, hiding the truth behind a veil of wealth and prestige. It's time for that facade to come crashing down. A glimmer of hope flickered. I could feel it radiating from Theo and the activists, the united front against a looming threat. We stand together, I declared, meeting my mother's gaze with a determination she must have felt radiate through me. We will break the cycle. We will put an end to this. You think you can, Mira? Theo's father sneered, but I could see cracks forming in his icy demeanor. Do you know what you're truly asking for? I'm asking for freedom, I shot back. Freedom from fear, from manipulation, from your spite that has wrecked lives. As if lifted by a fresh breeze against the suffocating weight, the activists began to rally. Their voices rose to accompany me, a chorus of mutual strength. Suddenly, the very atmosphere shifted like a pendulum swinging towards justice. "Testify against him," the lieutenant urged, his tone firm yet supportive. "You'll have protection, we'll ensure you and everyone are safe. All of you have a part to play in this." I could feel the fire in my gut roaring to life. This was our moment. A chance to reclaim our lives. "We will tell the truth," I announced, knowing the taste of that decision would linger long after. "Together." And just as courage filled the void, Theo stepped beside me, his resolve emboldening mine, a fierce bond cementing in the shadow of what had threatened to consume us. I won't allow him to destroy what we've built, what we've begun to piece together. I glanced at my mother. "Are you with us?" I needed her support more than I could articulate. Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears as she nodded slowly, resolute. "Yes," she whispered, "I'm with you." In that moment, we became an unbreakable assemblage, a tapestry woven from fragments of hope against the encroaching darkness. And then came the twist, as the lieutenant turned back to me, his eyes piercing into my soul. "There's just one more thing you must understand. Your father, he was involved, too." My heart stopped. The waves of shock threatened to drown me. "What?" The room spun, a whirlpool of confusion battling my newly ignited resolve. "He's part of the greater game, a pawn in this larger chess match of manipulation and betrayal. The storm you've faced has roots sinking deep into your own life, more than you realize." The atmosphere thickened, a veil of fear cast over my heart as I looked at Theo, and he took my hand. The implications rattled me to my core. Could I truly fight against a monster born from my own blood? "You have to decide," the lieutenant continued, his voice steady, yet imbued with an honesty that pierced the tension. "Will you confront both your father and Theo's? Are you willing to step into the storm and face the truth, no matter where it leads?" I inhaled shakily, the weight of my decision heavy on my shoulders. "Yes," I finally breathed, the word a fragile but firm declaration echoing through the room. "Together, we confront them, and if I have to face my own father, then so be it. I will no longer be a pawn in this game." As if summoned by a wave of defiance, the winds howled outside, threatening yet invigorating. We were ready. I was ready. And even as the shadows closed in around us, an ember of fierce determination ignited the pathway forward, and amid the chaos, amid the uncertainty that had tangled itself into our lives, I realized, sometimes the greatest act of kindness stems not just from our connection with others but from the courage to reclaim our truth from the grip of betrayal. We would rise from the depths, stand together united against the darkness. Each heartbeat resonated with the understanding that this was only the beginning, a chance to grasp the reins of our destinies, and finally come face to face with the monsters that tried to suffocate our flame. Together, we would light the way, and darkness would tremble before our united strength. Because in the tapestry of life, even the strongest threads could be woven anew. My heart swelled as I whispered words that felt like a prayer, a mantra: "Hope thrives where fear dares to tread." And with that, we prepared to meet the storm head-on, resolute in our fight for freedom.